Call the regular village board meeting for August 1st, 2022 to order. Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Mayor Pisak?
Here.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Here.
Trustee Duffy?
Here.
Trustee Greco?
Here.
Trustee Mullen?
Here.
Trustee Sadat? Here. Trustee Wins?
Here.
With that, I'd like to ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on tonight's agenda, under appointments, proclamations, and presentations, is the oath of office of Deputy Chief of Police Craig Gomorchek. At this time, I'd like to invite Chief of Police Licko to the podium to provide an introduction, and afterwards, Deputy Clerk Arnold will swear in Deputy Chief Gomorchek.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. As you're all aware, I was promoted to chief in May, which created a vacancy for the deputy chief position. We posted a job opening for the position and received a lot of interest from throughout the state. But one applicant caught our attention early on, and I'm pleased to introduce you to him as our new Deputy Chief of Administration. Craig Gomorchek comes to us from the Westmont Police Department, where he served for 20 years and recently retired at the rank of sergeant. Craig built an impressive resume for himself while at Westmont PD, where he served as a patrol officer, juvenile detective, school resource officer, accreditation manager, field training officer, recruitment coordinator, honor guard commander, TASER instructor, and the list goes on. He is also an accreditation assessor, where he evaluates other police departments throughout the state to ensure they meet the standards of the Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, which you all may recall is something we just completed earlier this year. So it'll be nice to have an assessor on staff to make sure we're doing everything properly to maintain our accredited status. He is a graduate of Northwestern University Center for Public Safety School of Police Staff and Command, and completed the mid-management role in the 21st Century Training Course through the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board Executive Institute. Before becoming a police officer, he served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps and continues to volunteer to help military veterans in need. Craig is married to his wife Nora and has 3 children, Ryan, Elise, and Addison. It is my pleasure to ask that Deputy Clerk Arnold officially swear in Craig Gomorchek as a Lisle Police Officer and as our Deputy Chief of Administration.
If you'd please raise your right hand. I, Craig Gomorchek,
I, Craig Gomorchek,
having been appointed to the position of Deputy Chief
have been appointed to the position of Deputy Chief
for the Lisle Police Department
for the Lisle Police Department
in the Village of Lisle,
in the Village of Lisle,
in the County of DuPage,
in the County of DuPage,
do solemnly swear
that
that I will faithfully support
I faithfully support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I faithfully discharge
the duties of Deputy Chief
the duties of Deputy Chief
for the Lisle Police Department
for the Lisle Police Department
in the Village of Lisle
in the Village of Lisle
to the best of my abilities.
to the best of my abilities.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, pick one of just you two. Facebook picture.
We will move on to public comment. This is non-agenda public comment. Is there anyone present here tonight to provide public comment? If so, please come on down to the podium. As a reminder, there will be opportunity for public comment regarding specific agenda items when the item is called for consideration. Is there anyone in the boardroom for public comment? Assistant Manager Knight, is there anyone on Zoom?
I'm going to ask the Assistant 2 to respond.
Thank you. Oh, is there someone for public comment? Okay. We'll move on to meeting minute approval. May I have a motion to approve the regular village board meeting and committee of the whole meeting minutes from July 18th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
So motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Mayor Pisak?
Aye, and the motion passes. Moving on to the voucher list, is there unanimous concurrence to consider all the bills included on the August 1st voucher list? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the August 1st, 2022 voucher list in the amount of $1,058,750.42.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any public comment? Anyone on Zoom? Thank you. Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Mayor Pisak?
Aye, and the motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda. Items listed as part of the consent agenda will be voted on together as a group unless a member of the village board requests that it be separately considered. Would Assistant Village Manager Knight please provide an overview of each item?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the Village Board. Item A on this evening's consent agenda is a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Clifton Larson Allen LLP for utility billing services. Approval of this resolution will authorize an agreement with Clifton Larson LLP for utility billing services in an amount not to exceed $28,800. Staff has been satisfied with utility billing services provided and recommends continuation of these services. Item B is a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a contract for pavement marking services with Superior Road Striping Incorporated. Approval of this resolution will authorize the village manager to execute a contract for pavement marking services with Superior Road Striping Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $40,000. Through this item, the village has been afforded the opportunity to participate in favorable pricing resulting from a competitive bidding process through DuPage County. Item C is an ordinance authorizing the issuance of a purchase order for equipment rental to Runyon Equipment Company and a related budget amendment. Approval of this ordinance will authorize the issuance of a purchase order for rental of equipment to Runyon Equipment Company in the amount of $25,170 and a related budget amendment. Rental of this vehicle will allow the village to continue tree removal, trimming, and streetlight maintenance activities as the village lift truck is repaired. Item D is a resolution declaring whether or not the need for confidentiality still exists for executive session meeting minutes of meetings taking place between November 1st, 1983 and June 6, 2022. Approval of this resolution will determine whether the need for confidentiality still exists for certain executive session meetings held between November 1st, 83 and June 6, 2022. Item E, a resolution authorizing the destruction of certain closed session minutes, recordings of meetings occurring on September 21, 2020 and January 18, 2021. Approval of this resolution will authorize the destruction of a certain closed session verbatim records for meetings occurring on September 21, 2020 and January 18, 2021. This additional housekeeping item is in keeping with the Illinois Open Meeting Act and Village Ordinance 2018-4783. Item F is an ordinance increasing the number of Class 2.5 liquor licenses by 1. Approval of this ordinance will increase the number of Class 2.5 liquor licenses by 1 and allow for its issuance to Brazzi's Pizzeria. Brazzi's Pizzeria is located at 5328 Main Street in the former Pacero's Pizza Space. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. Staff recommends approval of items A through F.
Thank you very much, Assistant Village Manager Knight. At this time, would any trustee like an item to be separately considered?
D and E.
D and E. Any others? May I have a motion to approve items A through C and F?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment regarding those items? Any village board discussion? That's a consent agenda.
There is
Oh, I'm
somebody who
sorry.
raised a hand.
Was there public comment? No, not on that item. Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Mayor Pisak?
Aye, and the motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve item D separately?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second on item D. Any public comment regarding item D? Please come on down to the podium.
Hi, Maureen Lovick, local resident. These two, like with the trustees, concerned me because I didn't know why they were being destroyed and what was the topic that would ask that just these two meetings be destroyed. And is it a problem saving the minutes or the verbiage or recordings from executive sessions? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anyone on Zoom? Thank you. Any village board discussion? We'll start, there were two trustees that pulled it. Go ahead.
Yeah, for item D, I'd actually like to offer an amendment to it. When we discussed this, initially, I was in the process of looking up 2 meetings. So I'd like to propose that we also include February 21st, 2022, setting price for real estate, setting the price for sale or lease of real property owned by the village, as well as 3/7/2022, setting the price for sale or lease of real property owned by the village into the meeting minutes where the need for confidentiality no longer exists list. These are 2 that are on the same topic and were completed, closed out, and done. I think they should be released. And at the time, it was even offered that they should be released immediately.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No other comments.
Okay, any other board member comments?
I was going to say, just in general, that the ones that are selected are reviewed by the legal team. So for whatever purposes, there may have been something that may have been inclusionary in there that may have not met the standards for release. So I don't know if from the, I don't know if we can from the podium release. You're saying it's related, and I understand. I agree with what is being said by Trustee Mullen for the release. I'm just concerned there might be some other private information that or may not be ready yet. And again, I don't know what that is. I'm just saying I know that the list that was given and presented to us
The matter is
what's
totally
safe.
closed. That
Okay.
was, I mean, that's kind of the condition for,
Yeah.
I think the question from Trustee Greco, though, was that, were those 2 meetings 100%?
those items were on one topic, and that topic is closed.
There was no other time? I'd like the opportunity to take a look at that, as we probably should review again.
Then I'd offer to table
Yeah,
this until the
I
next
think
meeting.
I wasn't here at the last meeting. I think there's a little bit further discussion that should probably be had about this. And I really wanted just to have a little bit more time just to research. I think D is, every time this comes up, I think D just requires one additional conversation. I think we can just definitely defer this for the next round. That was my reasoning for pulling it. I would have to take a look at 3/7/2022. Typically, we waited 6 months to kind of talk through about disclosure for executive session meetings. That's why
That's the
I
state
didn't look
law,
at,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't look at 3/7/2022. Wait.
Yeah, 3/7 and 2/21 were on the same item. And,
But I would be in agreement on February 21.
yeah, I would just ask if everyone could take a look at those 2 meetings and those minutes, because I think those are ready to go also, and we even talked at the time that we should release those.
Any other board member comments?
I'm comfortable. I think Trustee Sadat, your motion, you want to table this to the next several. I'm comfortable with that, and then looking at these 2 and kind of going from there. And I think to the public comment, I think that was probably more directed towards E. I know we were talking about D, but it would be nice, I think, when we have this conversation next time to provide some general public guidance as to why certain things, like the video recordings, get destroyed versus the minutes, just to kind of provide some clarity. I think that would be good for just public education. I could try to give that explanation, but that would just go horribly wrong.
We could ask the village attorney.
Yeah.
If we want to give a little public acknowledgement.
That was the reason why I pulled it. We were going to ask the reason why it was going to be destroyed. There was a lot of heated discussion the last time that this was brought up as to why we destroy certain things and why we keep certain things. And the written record is the reason why we keep certain things around. So E for sure.
Are we discussing E?
Right.
No, we're not.
We're on D.
We're on D right now.
We should not be talking about E.
We're on D.
Could I make
Had one modified motion. We've had a second modified motion.
Can
and then
we
had a-
table it?
Yeah, then I would withdraw and suggest we table this. Everyone take a look at those two meetings, come back. I don't know if it requires exec session to talk about, so we can talk about in more detail those two meetings and then bring it back.
I think
But I
we
would
have to
defer.
review them, whether we review them individually or whether we review them in
Right.
executive session or.
I would ask the village attorney what you felt the best process there would be to relook at those couple meetings.
Yeah, so I agree that any, discussion on those two meeting minutes, I don't specifically know them, but they were closed session to begin with, and so when you talk about whether to release them or not, you should do that also in closed session, which would be authorized.
Okay.
Could I make a suggestion that we still move forward with the recommendations, and then we could also just make these two meetings, if they are in fact just a new motion?
Well, we have a motion, and a second, to approve item D right now. Would we take a vote on it before we do a modified motion to table?
I don't think we're asking for a modified motion then. I mean, as part of discussion, to trustee Greco's point, we could go forward, and then can we bring those two meetings back to executive session to discuss?
That would be a separate direction to staff, is to schedule
Right,
an
I'm just
executive
asking,
session.
like, could we do that, or should we just table the whole thing? I mean, trustee Sadat, I think your comfort level was more about the whole thing, so we should probably table if that's the case.
That's what I would recommend, but I'm just one vote.
Right, but just asking opinions.
I'm comfortable tabling the whole thing. Because I think the conversation's just gonna be around those two. And then trustee Sadat, that gives you additional time to kind of dive in there if there's any questions that come up, and we can have that full discussion at the executive session.
Then I'll make a motion to table until 2 weeks, until the next meeting in executive session where we can discuss this further.
I will
We have
second
a-
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tabling
We have a
and E.
table,
Just date, just.
but we have a motion on the table from the original item D.
I'm making a substitute motion.
I think somebody had asked
No.
previously whether
Substitute
you
motion
should,
be made by anybody else.
I think somebody had asked previously whether you could do one, whether you could approve this and then bring the other meeting minutes back for consideration, and just so you know your options, you could do that. You could approve this, bring the other two meeting minutes back for consideration. And then that's an option.
But right before us, though, what we have is a motion on the table with a second. And then we have a substitute motion.
To
And
table.
a second to table. Which one do we vote on first?
I would go ahead and take the substitute motion.
Okay. Okay. Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll on the substitute motion.
I'm sorry, who made the second on that?
I did. Trustee Sadat.
Thank you. Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Trustee Greco?
No.
Mayor Peasack?
No. But we will table it. Now, there was no date certain in the,
I said until the next meeting
Till the
in
next
executive
meeting.
session.
okay. Okay, so we'll move on to item E. Can I have a motion to approve item E on the consent agenda?
As long as there's not a substitute motion afterwards, but.
We can't control that, but.
Okay,
do-
I'll
Do we have a
I'll make
motion?
that, I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do we have a second? Anyone second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And first of all, any public comment on item E? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, any board discussion on item E?
I would suggest this is a good time to ask the village attorney to explain the destruction process and Open Meetings Act and for the benefit of the public.
So, of course, closed session meetings have to be recorded, as you all know. They have to be preserved until there's a certain time frame, 18 months, and also written minutes of the closed session meeting have to be approved, and there also can't be litigation concerning the topic. After that, it's discretion. I mean, you don't have to destroy it, but as a record-keeping function, municipalities who have approved the minutes generally go through this process and where they do decide to purge the records as authorized by the Open Meetings Act.
Does that satisfy your question?
I'm not sure if that was, I understood. I don't know if everybody would understand. I mean, the gist of it is we record those meetings so that we can create minutes because they're done with just the people who have to be in the room. And we are allowed per state law 18 months after that recording, as long as minutes have been approved and done and released, that we can get rid of those recordings so that we clear up space for ourselves. There's a storage issue. There's a lot of things like that that go into the maintenance of those things. But state law is kind of written so that it has to be recorded, and then you can destroy it as long as certain conditions are met. Is that fair to say?
That's right. The state law wants to make sure that there's no litigation, of course, involving those or subpoenas and that kind of thing, in which case they'd have to be preserved. And you don't have to destroy them. They exist, and it's a matter of policy. You know, your discretion, you could keep them, but you are in compliance with the Open Meetings Act if you decide to destroy them after 18 months and you've complied with the things we talked about, approving the minutes, that kind of, the written minutes.
Yeah, and I think to something Trustee Sadat said earlier, we have had a lot of discussion on how to keep them, if we should keep them longer. We've definitely talked this one out a lot. I think that was a good point to make, Trustee Sadat.
Honestly, like at the end of the day, you have the written word of what took place. If there is a case for it, if there is something that's active in the court case, you do have the option to come and examine certain things with the lawyer. You do, the trustees that are actually physically there can have the option to come and inspect them, right? And people have done that, right, Mayor? They have come in and inspected those recordings in the past, the audio recordings.
Members of the board have
members of the board,
them, and the Office of the Attorney General, the PAC office, has reviewed them in some cases.
And that's the reason why we keep them around if the cases are open. So for litigation purposes, that's why we keep them. If there is no open litigation, then we destroy them. YouTube is a whole another situation, which, you know, it's fun to watch sometimes. Reading thorough meeting notes, those are also fun to read sometimes, but that's the reason why we destroy it. Keeping digital data, keeping cloud repositories, those get super expensive, and we would rather spend it on things that actually matter, like paving streets and, you know, plans and things like that. So that's kind of where I stand.
Okay, with that, any other board?
Yeah, I mentioned it multiple times. I can't even imagine what the cost to store this type of digital information would be in comparison to helping pave a road. We have storage on our telephones that it baffles me that there's any need to destroy any information from recorded meetings. It takes more to transfer them from audio to the meeting minute notes and then store physical notes than it does to have a digital file. I, today, tomorrow, and forever, will always say that there's no real need to destroy this stuff. Even if it's for 100 years from now, for people to go back and listen to the discussions that a village board had in executive session to evaluate for any possible reason whatsoever. I believe in a transparent government, and while we have the ability through the Open Meetings Act to do so, I believe it's antiquated to a time when you had large storage facilities that had to house tapes and stuff. This modern world, storing digital media is extremely simple, and I don't have a lot of experience with it. So I made the comments in executive session, and I make them publicly. We should be looking for every reason to make our government more transparent, and if it costs so much to store this, I'd like to see the figures on what it would cost our IT department to keep a, I mean, it's a digital recorder that takes up the size of a tape cassette and can hold audio minutes for hours on end. If you did nothing but save that device, you've got a lot of storage that requires minimal upkeep. So we should be going to every effort to save this stuff rather than destroy this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
No.
Trustee Duffy?
No.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
No.
Mayor Pisak?
No. So that one fails. We'll move on to our regular agenda. Next item is an ordinance revoking Ordinance 2002-3408 and approving a preliminary plat of subdivision, map amendment, special use permit, and variance for the property located at 2701 Ogden Avenue. May I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Would Director Smetana please provide an overview of this item?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Approval of this ordinance will authorize the construction and operation of a conveyor tunnel car wash with vacuum cleaning stations. The Planning and Zoning Commission conducted the public hearing for these zoning requests on June 15th and July 20th. Two objectors were present. The objectors' concerns related to noise, traffic, and the preservation of existing vegetation. The applicant submitted a site-specific sound study and traffic impact study in response to these concerns. Upon closing the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval of the zoning request with staff proposed conditions of approval based upon the applicant's findings of fact. The proposed conditions of approval will ensure that the development is constructed in substantial compliance with the preliminary plans, advances the recommendations of the Ogden Avenue Corridor Plan, and will further ensure that the proposed car wash does not negatively impact the public's health, safety, and welfare. With exception of the one requested variance to authorize a dumpster within the front yard, preliminary plans demonstrate compliance with all codes and ordinances of the village. And tonight, staff is recommending approval of the proposed ordinance revoking Ordinance 2002-3408 and approving a preliminary plat of subdivision, map amendment, special use permit, and variance for the property located at 2701 Ogden Avenue.
Thank you, Director Smetana. Any public comment regarding this agenda item? None in the boardroom. Anyone on Zoom? Thank you. Any board discussion? I'll start with Trustee Wins.
No.
Trustee Mullen.
Nothing for me.
Trustee Greco.
I saw that they did some noise studies with the vacuums and such, and I was at the property line, so I'm happy with the work that was conducted and administered by staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Sadat.
Nothing.
Trustee Kwitzel.
I too was pleased at the responsive studies. I just wanted to ask for the director for one point of clarity. In the packet, you remarked about how the development advances the recommendations of the Ogden Corridor Plan.
Yes.
But in planning and zoning, they were pointing out that the corridor plan discourages businesses of an automotive. Could you just offer some clarity as to why you think it does advance the plan versus what their concern was?
Sure. So the staff comment regarding advancing the Ogden Avenue corridor plan primarily relates to the fact that the applicant did agree to bury the overhead utility lines that are located on Beaubien. That is one recommendation of the corridor plan in an effort to beautify that corridor.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Duffy?
Nothing for me.
Okay. I'd just like to comment that I did receive public comment via email. Will that be put in the record?
Yes, it will.
Thank you. Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Mayor Pisak?
Aye, and the motion passes. Moving on to our next agenda item, an ordinance annexing 5603 Main Street to the Village of Lisle and authorizing a zoning map amendment to the R1 zoning district. May I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would Director Smetana please provide an overview of this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The property is contiguous to the corporate boundaries of the village and eligible for annexation. The ordinance before the board tonight will annex the property located at 5603 Main Street and authorize a map amendment to the R1 zoning district. The village board conducted a public hearing regarding this annexation on July 18th, 2022. There were no objectors or concerned citizens present at that public hearing. Tonight, staff recommends approval of the proposed ordinance annexing 5603 Main Street to the Village of Lisle and authorizing a map amendment to the R1 zoning district.
Thank you. Any public comment regarding this agenda item? Seeing none in the boardroom. Anyone on Zoom? No. I'll start board discussion with Trustee Duffy.
Nothing for me.
Trustee Quetzel.
Nice to have this business coming.
Thank you. Trustee Sadat.
Nothing for me.
Trustee Greco.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Trustee Mullen.
Nothing for me.
And Trustee Wins.
No, thank you.
Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Mayor Pisak?
Aye, and the motion passes. Next is an ordinance approving a final plat of subdivision, map amendment, and variances for the property located at 5603 Main Street. May I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Would Director Smetana please provide an overview of this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Approval of this ordinance will approve a final plat of subdivision, which will consolidate the 3 parcels that were just annexed into the Village of Lisle. It will approve a map amendment from R1 to B2, and it will approve variances from the village's architectural design standards, all of which will allow for construction and operation of a dental office. The Planning and Zoning Commission conducted public hearings for these requests on June 15th and July 20th, 2022. One objector was present. The objector's concerns primarily related to increased traffic on Coley Road due to the proposed development not providing direct access from Main Street to the property. Upon closing the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval of the final plat of subdivision, map amendment, and variances with staff proposed conditions of approval based upon the applicant's findings of fact. The conditions of approval proposed by staff will ensure that the building is constructed in accordance with the preliminary building elevations, which have been attached to the board ordinance. It also ensures that a cross-access easement is platted across the rear of the property. This cross-access easement will allow for future development that occurs south of this property on Route 53 to gain access using this easement across the subject property. It is hoped that that reduces the number of curb cuts required on Route 53 and avoids additional traffic impacts that those curb cuts could create. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the proposed ordinance, approving a final plat of subdivision, map amendment, and variances for the property located at 5603 Main Street.
Thank you, Director Smetana. Is there any public comment present in the boardroom? Seeing none, anyone on Zoom? Thank you. Start board discussion with Trustee Wins.
I have nothing.
Trustee Mullen.
Nothing for me.
Trustee Greco?
Nothing for me.
Trustee Sadat?
No, thank you.
Trustee Kwitzel?
Just to do my tiny part to preserve just a little bit of Lyle's history, the family pronounces their name Colai, so it's Colai Road. That's all.
And Trustee Duffy?
Nope.
Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Mayor Pisak?
Aye, and the motion passes. Next is an ordinance amending Title V zoning regulations of the Lisle Village Code. May I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will Director Smetana please provide an overview of this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Village Code authorizes the zoning administrator to initiate text amendments to the zoning ordinance on an annual basis for the purpose of correcting errors and inconsistencies. The zoning ordinance took effect January 1st, 2022. Since that time, it has been determined that amendments are necessary for the purpose of correcting errors and inconsistencies. The Planning and Zoning Commission conducted the public hearing for the proposed amendments on July 20th, 2022. No objectors were present and no public comments were received. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the proposed amendments with 2 modifications. Those modifications are included in the proposed approving ordinance. With that, Mayor, staff is recommending approval of the proposed ordinance amending Title V zoning regulations of the Lisle Village Code.
Thank you very much. Any public comment regarding this agenda item? I see no one in the boardroom, no one on Zoom. I'll start with Trustee Wins.
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Mullen?
Nothing for me.
Trustee Greco?
Nothing from me.
Trustee Sadat?
Nothing.
Trustee Kwitzel?
Do we have many businesses that have illuminated window signs?
I would say there's a decent amount of businesses that have illuminated window signs. What's important to remember with this amendment that will prohibit illuminated window signs is it's not retroactive. Okay, it'll apply to new businesses or businesses adding new signage moving forward once this code takes effect. So for the businesses that already have illuminated signage, that signage will be allowed to remain as a non-conforming development feature.
Okay, thank you.
And Trustee Duffy?
Nothing from me.
Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Mayor Pisak?
Aye, and the motion passes. Next on our agenda is a resolution establishing a public art advisory committee for the Village of Lisle. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would Assistant Manager Knight please provide an overview of this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The creation of a public art program was last discussed at the July 18th Committee of the Whole meeting. Direction provided during that meeting included preparing a resolution establishing a public art advisory committee for the village board to consider. The proposed resolution has been prepared in response and incorporates feedback provided at that meeting. Approval of the proposed resolution will establish a public arts committee consisting of a chair and 4 committee members. Additional details can be found in Exhibit 1 of the proposed resolution. This is the first 2 items to be discussed, with the second regarding the art program model found on tonight's Committee of the Whole agenda. That concludes my report. I'm happy to respond to any questions the village board might have.
Thank you, Assistant Manager Knight. Any public comment here in the boardroom regarding this agenda item? Not seeing anyone respond. Anyone on Zoom? No. I'll start board discussion with Trustee Duffy.
I really have nothing else to add related to what the resolution is. Pretty straightforward to me, so thank you.
Trustee Kwitzel?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Trustee Sadat?
Excited to have applicants. Looking forward to it.
Trustee Greco?
Also excited. Glad to see this coming to fruition here in the village. Look forward to an art program.
Trustee Mullen?
Agree, and looking forward to the second part of the discussion tonight.
And Trustee Wins?
I have nothing.
Thank you. I do have a question for the village attorney. I did find Illinois compiled statutes, a reference to, formal reference to art commissions, where there is a requirement to appoint professions of painting, sculpture, and architecture and landscape gardening. Does this commission fall under those same requirements?
This one does not. this one is not under that, the section of the municipal code 1142-6. This is an advisory committee, the one that's under the municipal code or provided for in the municipal code sets forth its own criteria for appointment of folks, and this is different.
Would it, does there have to be a separation between those two, or can this be used as a guide in selecting appointments?
It can certainly be used as a guide, and of course, I believe that the one that we have that's under consideration right now has selection criteria about who those members should be. You are, of course, free to use that as a guide to kind of inform your selections.
Okay, but this, the ILCS is more of a statutory state commission, state-sanctioned commission versus a voluntary commission that we're setting up.
Right, the ILCS provides a framework for a commission that for instance, it has additional members on the commission. They're required, as opposed to right now you have the discretion about their qualifications. This has some formal elements, and then it also provides that no public art can be established unless you do get formal approval from the ILCS committee. And so you would have to get their sign off before you have public art projects.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate that very much. With that, Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Sadat.
Wholeheartedly aye.
Trustee Duffy.
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel.
Aye.
Trustee Greco.
Aye.
Trustee Mullen.
Aye.
Trustee Wins.
Aye.
Mayor Pisak.
Aye, and the motion passes. Moving on to official and staff reports, I'll start elected officials reports with Trustee Wins.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Trustee Mullen.
Nothing for me tonight.
Thank you. Trustee Greco.
Thursday, we had a opening on Ogden Avenue, which it's good to see more businesses coming to town, and Cabinet City opened, and I encourage anyone who's looking for cabinets in their home, whether it's a new home or if it's being repaired for some reason, to consider cabinets. Great new facility, great owners. There was a sizable turnout for the event. Also want to make note, one of the applicants today for the liquor license, Brazzi's, came in. The Lyle Chamber of Commerce is planning to have that ribbon cutting ceremony on September 1st, and I'm here to invite all the trustees to come out for some good Italian food. I've frequented the restaurant a few times, and I can say that everything in the menu is good. So look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Sadat.
Yeah, great family, obviously, the cabinet, our new business partners. Looking forward to renovating my basement. They are on my list. Nothing actually, just enjoying summer. Love seeing people around. Keep enjoying summer. That's it, thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Quetzel.
We had some robust discussion last meeting about special events grants, specifically the downtown Lisle car shows. And this was followed up by some Freedom of Information requests from a trustee, and I thought this was good questioning, so I just want to kind of refresh it. Some of the questions were how many people on average attend a car show event, how many new participants, how many repeat participants. Has anyone talked to the downtown businesses? What do restaurants in the downtown report related to the car shows? Do they see more customers, less customers? I want to know how much money the presenter, are making off the event, a marketing plan. Shouldn't others get a chance to propose an event? This is sound information when using public tax dollars. is LEDP wasting village funds on an event that doesn't track an ROI and maybe is in decline? It's one thing for private entities to fund an event, it's another for public funds to be used. I thought this was a good lens, and I thought it would be interesting to overlay it to something that was before us previously, because I think it would also be a good lens there. So I'm just going to ask the same questions with a couple replacements. Has anyone talked to the downtown business about how they feel about an additional apartment development? What have they experienced related to the existing development, Marquette? Do they see more customers? Do they see less customers? Shouldn't others have a chance to propose a development? This is sound information when using public tax dollars. In the case of the car show, we're talking about between $200,000 and $5,000. In the case of subsidized apartment development, we're talking about $10.5 million. Is the village wasting village funds on an event that doesn't track an ROI? It's one thing for private entities to fund a development. It's another for public funds to be used. So I just thought that I like this type of questioning and hope we employ this lens. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Duffy.
So those were my questions. I know someone will FOIA it at some point, so I might as well just save them that time, so when they FOIA, they can ask for me. I think that I will say that one thing is, during the TIF conversation, we got to see an ROI related to property value. So we at least got projections as to what that property would bring related to value. Whether or not you agree on if that property should be used like that, that is a separate thing versus what the value of the projection showed. You know, I wasn't actually going to say anything because I'm waiting on some more information and I didn't want to speak out of turn. So I will just simply state that when it comes to public funds for events, there should be a process. I have no issue with the cruise nights occurring, or I think they're called the Lyle Car Shows. I don't want to get the name accurate. This is an event that has happened for many years, and to not have that information concerns me at this point. But I know that I think the Kiwanis Club is trying to pull together some of the information I asked for, so I don't want to misspeak. I think when it gets to it is just that I view, don't do an event because you've always done an event. Do an event because you have because you know what it's bringing back in value to your town. And for a town like us, we dedicate so precious dollars to economic development from these types of pools. So that's why I want to have that enhanced lens on it. But I don't want to say anything else because I don't have all the information yet, and you know, I've been asking these questions because I want to make sure I understand what this is. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have, there is some information that I've submitted to the LEDP for the LEDP's congregation to report to the village, so that'll be coming shortly. But from my perspective, I think it's been very important for the past 2 to 3 years to keep the community engaged in events, particularly as those events have been canceled and we couldn't hold them. We had an Independence Day go by where we couldn't enjoy fireworks and celebrate Independence Day during COVID. We did have a good turnout last year, but because it's not a ticketed event, crowd sizes are difficult to ascertain. This year, coupled with a concert, estimates of crowd size ranged from anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 people to 8,000 to 10,000 people. Nobody was engaged in actually estimating the crowd size. But there were several sources that did contribute some estimates, and but if we look at what the village spent on that versus what the return on investment was, very difficult to ascertain what that is. The downtown car shows is a multi-pronged effort. It's an effort to get people out, particularly after COVID. There were a couple of years that went by without having the ability to have the car shows, cruise nights. After COVID, I felt it was very important to get the community back out, enjoying themselves out in the public, commiserating, communicating, and doing so in any way they could. There were cars and coffee, informal events where people just gathered at the spur of the moment. There was the car shows in the commuter lot to cut down on costs, because nobody understood the dynamics of how an event coming back after COVID would get affected, and before budgets were spent and commitments were made. Minimizing those costs, I believe, by the operators was the best effort going forward. I think the events have shown now that they can support closing the streets, which adds costs, and from my perspective, I think it's important that we're able to have those types of events, and if there's other events that we can hold, I'm curious, interested in hearing about them, seeing what else we can do. I would be all in favor of additional concerts, of additional car shows, anything we could possibly do. So I'm all ears, but I just wanted to make those statements in regards to return on investment. I think ultimately what we show as the return on investment is the community engagement. I received 3 emails supporting the cruise nights, including from a business and a first-time business that participated in the show, brought 4 vehicles, and I've received no complaints from anybody. Matter of fact, the businesses that I did stop in and see were all enthusiastic about it. They did express, one business did express a concern, but mostly even that business expressed positivity towards the cruise nights. But that'll be a report that follows later, my observations and things. But I just wanted to get that out to the board and to the community. With that, we'll turn over to village staff reports. Assistant Manager Knight, any staff reports?
Yes, Mayor, just a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to extend a warm welcome to Deputy Chief Gomorczak, who took the oath of office earlier this meeting. Secondly, just wanted to encourage the community to come out to National Night Out. Will be tomorrow from 5 to 8 to the Lyle High School parking lot. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
So motion and a second. Deputy Clerk Arnold, please call the roll.
Trustee Greco?
Aye.
Trustee Mullen?
Aye.
Trustee Wins?
Aye.
Trustee Sadat?
Aye.
Trustee Duffy?
Aye.
Trustee Kowitzel?
Aye.
Mayor Pisak?
Aye, and we are adjourned. Give us, I think we can do it in less than 10 minutes to reset the recording equipment. We'll start with the committee of the whole meeting at 8:03.